the complete picture of the innovation, the process of the innovation. So this is what we presented last time. Italia has, Ilaria organized some slides of the last presentation. If you want to start, Ilaria.
Yes. So the idea of last time was working with you mostly on this what we call this resource map. So we introduced the idea of the Urbanscape. What you see as this pentagon in the middle of the picture. It's, sorry, just a moment, Ernesto. No. Giù dalla sedia, per favore. No. Sorry.
No problem.
Don't
worry, I have twins. 9-year-old, so I know what does it mean.
I have two sisters, so I also know what having twins at home.
To give you an idea, is standing on a rotating chair and okay. Sorry about that. No, ma non ci penso proprio. Allora, so this idea of this pentagon, this is the way we have tried to sum up all the dimension that are characteristic of a urban context that can be important factor in the innovation process. So when you are developing your project idea and you're developing your initiative within an urban context, you get in relation intentionally or by chance with different environments of the city that can contribute to your idea or are essential for the development of your idea. So you on one end you interact with the institutions of the city, and the institutional capacity of this organization to be to promote policies that can support your initiative is a factor that could allow or can be a hindering factor for your initiative to develop. The kind of cultural environment you find yourself in can be again a driver, can give you lots of inputs and resources for develop your idea. Or if you live in a poor cultural environment, can be a barrier for you to promote something that it's really innovative. So you have to work very hard to try to get acceptance for your idea. So because we are thinking about projects that have let's say a focus on big challenges, also the environmental awareness of the urban context can be a key factor, because the more you find yourself in a context that it's already taking action towards a certain towards sustainability, towards
relevant.
Yeah, the more you can be able to integrate your vision about this, both in the context and in your own organization. So these 5 components that we have selected, they are the way we have tried to simplify the complex mechanisms and interactions that are characteristic of a city. Of course, cities differ very much from one another. So this is the context really matters in this case. I don't know what is your experience. I think if I remember well, you deal very much with this kind of issues in your work with the stakeholders you are in touch with. So I think you're familiar with the issues that we are trying to describe here.
If I can add, sorry, Ilaria, if I can add something. is just the idea of this exercise. Is to brainstorm with you about resources, material and immaterial. So this is not a stakeholders map, because this is more than stakeholders map. Stakeholders are one of the resources. The other are laws, taxes, incentives, the cultural events, and so on. So was the idea to make this exercise of kind of explorers of the urban condition and resources and environment. So this is we imagine that we made this very theoretical framework, but here it's a way to put this in practice, let's say.
Yes, and we know that most of the times, so it happens quite often that people that are really involved in developing projects, they have so they do know about these issues as the element, but at sort of unaware level. So these are things that you work with, but when you see them, when you map them properly, it's so often useful, because you realize, okay, this is something that I'm really doing quite well, and I've invested a lot of time and energy in this field, and maybe there is some other pieces of this story that could be interesting for you to further look into, because that might be something that can help you to further improve or further develop your idea. So this is what we did last week, sorry. And to do that, we introduced a few concepts about innovation, and that we see innovation as a complex process, which works mostly on developing new functions, but also new meanings. So this idea of innovation as a driver, not only of uses or products or technology, but also as a process that can be able or develop new meanings, values, culture. This is something that was stressed by Verganti in his famous idea of the design-driven innovation. What we have tried to do with Designscapes is also to further develop this idea of the design agency in the innovation process, which we do not only refer to the expert knowledge of the expert designer, but it's something that it's also held in the diffuse capacity of designing. That it's something that, for example, with co-design, you try to introduce in the design process. This is something that, again, can happen in an aware way, but it's something that is also deeply rooted in the way the general problem-solving capacity of the lay citizens. It's so, adesso non posso, amore, nel facendo sto parlando. No,
ciao Sabrina, benvenuta.
Okay. And so, and also this idea that this complex process of innovation, we do not see it as a linear process. It's more something that evolves through cycles and loops, but we can think about stages in this process. And of course, you know this because you participated in the Designscapes calls. They were also taught according to this idea that we have different stages of the innovation process. What we think it's relevant for let's say the way the kind of innovation that we are looking at is this idea that innovation, if we can support several innovations initiatives targeting big challenges, we can be able to create a certain critical mass that can target also systemic change, so that can have what we call a transitional power in terms of the ability of producing change that is that can be rooted in the framework of our socio-technical panorama. So to give you just few notion of what we discussed last time, I don't know if you're familiar with this idea of the transition perspective. In this perspective, innovation is seen as a process that affects three main levels. The niche levels is the level where probably you still are. It's the level of the root level of innovation, where innovation is mostly produced in small networks that have the freedom to be creative and to produce ideas and to test ideas, to make experiments. Niches are at the root of the innovation process. Then we have the regime level. Regime is where norms and rules are mostly developed. And it's the most rigid level. It's the level that takes more time and more, it needs to be needs to be put under pressure to make changes. So it's and then we have the landscape, which is the levels of the intangible aspects, so social values, political beliefs, culture. That it's always changing, but of course it's really difficult to affect it by intention. So it happens that certain disruptive innovation can also produce changes in the landscape, but it's never intentional. So this way of looking at the innovation, it's interesting and it's helpful because it gives us a framework that can help you to locate yourself in this panorama. So if you are at the early stage of the development of a project, so you are in a niche, you have limited power to influence the world around you, but you have the freedom to experiment. So you have the freedom to trial and error, and this is a big opportunity for really playing with your ideas. On the other hand, when your ideas gets rooted and starts to develop and grows, both in terms of dimension, but also in terms of the potential power to influence, to produce change, to mobilize resources, then it's almost inevitable that you start dealing also with the regimes. So you have to start to interact with institutions, with other organizations, with other big players in the context where you are, or even in other contexts. These interactions between what is in the niches and what is in the regimes can be can be easy if the regime is open to novelties, if the regime is able to, it's capable of deal with this kind of inputs, or it can become a conflict. If your idea puts the regime under extreme pressure, under putting stress the regime because the rules and the norms are not fit to deal with your idea or with your proposal, then you can have a conflict. And conflicts are also kind of productive of conflicts can be an opportunity, of course, but you have to be aware of this possibility. So this was really a 2 minutes overview on these big concepts, but they are interesting because what we wanted to discuss with you today, it's how these mechanisms, these processes interfere, or they relate to the scaling processes. So scaling, it's not only to be considered as a process of growth in terms of increase in the dimensions and in the possibility of a certain organization to produce, but scaling is also a sensitive process that really sets the certain organization or a certain project in a different relation to the environment this project can find itself in. And especially it is the moment in which this interaction with regimes becomes productive of change. So in the literature we find these three ways in which an initiative can, the scaling process can interact with the regimes. So on one hand, it can create tensions, which is referred to as a misalignment. So the regime can't provide the needed support to a certain projects because the tools it has are not useful to a certain task. So there's a need. It creates a certain there is a need for realign in order to be able to find solutions to problems that can be seen as common or need to be redefined. So initiatives can also create stress to the regime, so that the regime it's forced to see that it's not providing the right solutions, it's not providing the right support, it's not fit to the task of supporting innovation in the right way. So when the regime is put under stress, it can be that it creates walls, so shuts the access to its resources, or it can be that it opens up and starts to reorganize itself to provide the needed support. You can have both situations, and this is it's a key element to observe, for example, how cities react when innovation is brought to their attention. They can either exclude, they can try to avoid interacting with this kind of inputs and idea, or they can they can try to embed them in the also in the way they are organized and the way they can think about policies, including this kind of idea. And the way you produce stress is by creating pressure. So by really knocking on the door of the regime, asking for support. So these three different energies that can be created are constitutive of the scaling processes. So whenever there is scaling, you can find this kind of different dynamics in the relation between a certain project or a certain initiative and the regime. But with so it is interesting to follow Van de Bosch and Rothmans in this reasoning they make, because they consider scaling from an interesting perspective. So they consider scaling both as the scaling up, which is the usual way also the economic literature looks at scaling, so as a process of growth that requires a certain organizational development of the initiative, that requires the capacity of an organization to also to build new relations and build and insert itself into new networks. But also scaling out as the possibility to interact with other contexts and the possibility to develop the idea not only in terms of the capacity of reaching more users, but also in the capacity of reaching different users. So differentiate what you do also according to the fact that you enter in relationship with different contexts, with different users, with different environments. What it's really interesting about this vision is that they introduced the concept of scaling deep, which refers also to the capacity to impact on culture, to impact on the possibility of a project to root itself in a certain context, but on a symbolic level, on a level that deals with the sensitive matter of what culture is made, and the values, also the behaviors of the people it enters in relation with. And this is a key issue when we think about the kind of initiative Designscapes, for example, is trying to support, that are really looking at a certain type of change that deals very much with the vision on key problem, and the vision also on the change in behaviors of citizens and of these three forms of scaling, they can be synergic, so they can happen also in a synergic way, and they affect these processes of creating different kind of relationships to the regimes. So, for example, scaling out can contribute to increase the tension, because of course, the increase in the number of adopters or users of a certain product or of a certain initiative can amplify the need for new response capacity from the regime. The scaling up affects the need for a creative effort to update laws and policies. This is what we are seeing, for example, with the big tech companies. So we have a big rule gap. We don't know how to deal with this growing sector of companies that are able to affect the way we deal with key issues in our society, but there is no way of controlling them. And in this moment, the regime is really under stress because they do not want to stop innovation on one end, but they do see that it is risky not to to deal with issues like the privacy issues or things with information that at the moment it's really out of hand.
I think an example of this is Airbnb, not that forced some policies and to be changed, but it took like years and years to especially the Italian government to react to the Airbnb. Now we have empty centers. No, historical centers are empty because most of people prefers not renting but using Airbnb per day because it's much more redditive. Like it's much more financially.
Produce revenues.
Yeah, the revenues, and but some years ago they changed the law forcing the owners of the apartments to declare the how much they have out of renting the apartments by Airbnb and paying taxes on it, for example. So it's a very hard. The inertia of the laws and policies are enormous, no? But at the end, finally they react somehow to this innovation, strong innovation.
So there's a stress because it becomes clear that there is a gap in the sets of rule and the sets of regulations that the regime can apply it also to address a certain issue. On the other hand, there is also there's a need that emerged through this idea that can be also the need for short-term rents, but how to find the balance? It's a critical issue, and we do not have an answer so far. So there is the system is put under stress by the opportunity of having a product that provides an answer to certain needs, but it's not controlled. So there is
defects.
Yeah, there are also problems connected to the overuse of a certain solution. And also this idea of the scaling deep, so how we can affect the culture related to a certain way of functioning also of the regimes. This is a sensitive issue that can be interesting to explore. But in addition to this, when we think about the perspective that also Designscapes try to explore, we can also say that scaling is necessary, but it's not a sufficient mechanism if we want to think about systemic change, and if we want to think about transition towards certain changes.
For example, the green transition, no?
Yeah,
that we all, that is
right.
in the agenda.
If we think about things like Airbnb, as Kalita was mentioning before, of course, they scaled up effectively. But if we think about the impact they produced, for example, to the historical centers of certain cities, we cannot say that we see this kind of development as completely positive. So where is where are also the issue that we have to keep in mind if we want to consider scaling as a name, but scaling in a certain direction. So of course, on one end, there is the issue of being sustainable as a way of responding to the big challenges. We can say with Mariana Mazzucato being mission oriented. So there's an issue of targeting the right issues. So this idea of sustainability as the compass that has to be set to orient the work of organization. But it is sustainability in terms of also not only in terms of the task, but also in terms of the capacity of the initiative to be self-sustaining as a way of trying to give also initiative that do not at the moment do not have the power or the strength to deal with the market as it is right now, but to give them the possibility to survive nevertheless. So this idea of really creating the conditions for initiatives to be sustainable and to be able to survive in this context. The other issue is to be relevant. This is not so easy to be created, let's say, in laboratory, but the idea here is that we need innovation that it's capable of creating these dynamics of tension, stress, and pressure by being disruptive. So by being able to combine what we show you before with this idea of the innovation space made by the capacity of innovation of being generative in meanings, trying to develop new functions, and being inclusive in terms of the capacity of includes also the contribute of diffuse design capacity. So innovation that it's that has a real potential in being productive of change. And we think that being in a creative relation to the urban context, it's can be a way for the project ideas and for organizations to exploit in a productive way all the resources and all the inputs that from the urban context can come in terms of, on one hand, in terms of the many problems one is faced with when dealing with the urban context, but on the other hand, also as the possibility that it's given by cities, by urban contexts, to get in also to get access to many inputs and resources that can be integrated in your project idea.
If I can just say 1 minute thing, it's Mazzucato says that innovation is a cumulative, collective, and uncertain. So you are part of a very bigger process, of course. So cumulative, it means that your work will be the stepping stone for others to come in the future. And cumulative, because it's in collective, because it's a process of multiple actors. It's not just a single. Of course, it's not a single initiative that will make the green transition. It's a collective work and cumulative work. No, it's uncertain because, of course, all this to achieve the transition, you have to give incentives to a wide types of innovation and a wide types of thematics in themes. No, it's not, and then you never know which will be the one that will be disruptive. But it's a work in a long term, and never in a long term, but it's not like okay, this will be the one that will be disruptive. It's preparing the terrain, the soil, and then leaving it open for the uncertainty.
Yeah, the idea of giving you these inputs is not that we think of it as the ingredients to a recipe. It's more like warning signs of things that can be interesting for you to be aware of, that you might find yourself dealing with. And these are tools that can guide you in recognizing what is happening around you and what could be the forces interacting with your work. So what we wanted to try to do with you today was to discuss your scaling strategy. So what are your ideas about these processes, and how do you see yourself when we consider the different types of scaling and to see if we can help you to map the resources or the issues that could be relevant in your experience, in your situation, to support this scaling process you see yourself in.
Yeah. So this is a time more for, this is a guide for the discussion. No, it doesn't mean that you have to fill in the form. It's now it's time also for you to tell us also about your initiative, and to tell us about your scaling strategy, or your scale process that you are imagining, and so on. So this is a guide for a further discussion. So now we are 8. Ooh. And you are all from Startpack, because you're all Italians.
Yeah, we are Coesa in Toscana and Lucca Creative Hub.
Okay, and Fabio is also from Startpack?
Yeah, and he is on the side of Lucca Creative Hub.
Okay, so you already divide from the Lucca and...
Yeah, Lucca and Prato, yes, exactly.
Prato.
The indigenous and the project managers, so we are the local indigenous people.
Native.
Native, yes, that's the word. Thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And how is your scaling? doing so far?
Well, it's well, this time we have more issues with respect to the COVID situation. So we are doing all the activities with the citizens of Lucca online. While last time we managed to do half of the path offline, which was great actually, because yeah, it makes things way much easier. And also in terms of impacts, I think it's a way better, also because it's more experiential than for the people who are participating. But still, like when you were explaining us the scaling effects, tension and stress, I had the impression, I don't know what Fabio and Sabrina thinks, that we are not creating any of them so far. By one side, I think this is like, because of we're receiving a lot of support, while the words selected, although I know you do not intend them in a negative way, but like tension, stress, we are having a good relationship with the regime, let's say. So we are doing something the regime could have done with foundings they do not have. Maybe not the specific focus with like rethinking totally urban park, but still like participation and in a way co-designers still in the tools that regimes are using in Lucca as well as in Prato actually. So at the end, our output in both cases is a new plant of the park with the green and blue infrastructure the users have selected, as well as a suggestion of exterior design of the park in terms of elements of aggregation like chairs and so on. So that's the thing we present to public administration, so to the regime in our case, and we hope they will take it into consideration or in applying to funds and to realize it, or in financing themselves the remaking of the park.
Sabrina, if I can ask something that I don't, is not clear for me from an initiative. So the area is public.
Yeah.
You have an area in mind?
Okay, yes, I'm Rita.
Sue.
No, it's fine.
I called you what? Sabrina, sorry, I have no idea. So Rita, and so you are yourself, so the actors, no, the promoters of this, you are intermediators between, your role is to be intermediate between the municipality, let's say, and the project of the park. So you are creating a method to co-create a park. It's right?
Yeah, it's correct. We have on one side the public administration, and in the case of Lucca, the park is managed by a cooperative.
Okay.
Which, because the park is hosting a building which where minors not accompanied live, so refugees, but also there are some, I think it's a daily residency for disabled persons. So there are a lot of services to people, let's say, in situation of social frailty, but the ownership is connected to the public administration. Then there is this kind of manager, okay? While in Prato we had just like as a stakeholder with respect to the ownership of the park, just Prato municipality.
Okay.
So this was a big difference, actually. But also we are mediating between the experts with respect to green and blue infrastructures and the citizens and the users of the park in a way, because we are like, I would say that the chain is like this. We mediating between experts and citizens who, and they both have the goal of like making the park more sustainable and more resilient. And the output is a mediation between the three of us, experts, citizens, and Co-Design Toscana, Lucca Creative Hub, so the actors, and the municipality, and in this case, also the cooperative who is managing the park.
So you imagine your output as a kind of guidebook of how to
we have two output this time. So this new planimetry of the park. Then we have a guide, like a Star Park blueprint to scale it up and make like the scaling process a bit more automatic with this set of guidelines we partly already developed for the prototype call of Designscapes. And the third is the development of a Star Park factor, which is a sort of like the building of an index, which includes ecosystem services and sustainability, social issues. Like, I guess for me, it was super interesting to see the resource map as you underlined sort of social indicator, like social environment indexes, like the cultural vibe, the entrepreneurial ferment, and so on. Which could be like translated into a multi-index sorry for the which could be used to evaluate the impact of before and after Star Park, or maybe guide the selection of an area with respect to another. So yeah, those are the three outputs.
Yes.
You're muted, Ilaria.
Yeah.
I thought it was. You do have an agreement with the city, so this process is led by the city, and you have an agreement with them for supporting this.
No, we won the founding, so we are sort of offering this opportunity to the municipality. So in a way, we always try to get their approval, definitely, because we at the end we don't have the funds to create the Star Park, but just to ideate the Star Park. But still, it's they are partners, but not leaders, let's say.
This is interesting.
So I don't know if Fabio and Sabrina have different idea with the scaling in this case, because I feel really it's difficult for me to see where we are.
Okay, I can say something about the engagement of the citizens, no? Because this change, the strong change about COVID emergence, changed the relation. So we are trying to translate all the relation that should be weaved in place between adults and child and all the stakeholders online. And it's difficult. It's difficult because we have to engage to the new citizens. It is not easy to reach this group. You know? So we are thinking how to and one of the idea is to use ethnographic methods. So I try to be in place and make ethnographic conversation. Maybe this is one of the idea we have still to think and to deal with the institution logical. So this is the challenge. The challenge is I am more on the process of weave the network of citizens. No, we divide our things, our to-dos. So this is one of the critical places. We will succeed. Okay, Sabrina, you have some. Okay, and the other things that we are doing, it's building a network with other projects. For example, we take contacts. Still, we have no official relation, but there are in-habit projects founded on Horizon 2020 about smart citizen animals and pet animals, dogs and cats. So this is a beginning, no? Weaving relation with other projects to build a network on the place. So this is logically, this is the native point of view that we are trying to see a long horizon time, no? I think to activate a relation that can scale and act with I sometimes I miss the terms, but the government, the government of Lucca. What's the word? I have here on the slide.
Municipality.
See, it's the
administration
regime.
regime.
Excuse me.
Never mind.
I am an anthropologist, so I will. All these terms for me are in the concept of frictions of annexing.
Yes.
No, so it's very interesting this way to define the single components of friction. No, so here we are seeing a social change. Like anthropologist, I'm just seeing the tension, all the complex relation between things. So
yes.
I see something provocative that for maybe you have not produced tension and stress yet because you're trying to work with the how you say the way things are. No, you are trying to move in the context you find yourself. So when you feel like too I'm sorry, even the words for me today is kind of hard. That you're too much pressured by the and you try to change it, then you find the pressure. So you probably in a stage a little bit before of it. So
I guess when we will be done with the outputs, I was thinking while Fabio was speaking, we will be stressing an issue, no, which is like making the urban parks more sustainable. Which the regime probably already feels as an issue, but does not have so far the tools, the funds, and so on to
really deal with it. Yeah.
Because I think you have 2 points of stress or conflict with the regime. One is the thematic. The blue infrastructure is always something that it's very hard to insist on when you do a park. So you have this, okay, we can do a basin and you can do retention or a phyto depuration, and then you find the regime and no money, no way. We have done, we can just do the half part of it, but the half part of it is useless, so it's better not to do it. So this is, I think, one is the thematic, and the other interface between you and the regime that maybe will cause some tension. It's when it comes to adopt the participatory solution and so on, or the process, recognize that the decision of the community, it's has somehow it's have to be adopted or have to be taken in mind. I don't know what.
Yeah. Actually, you know why it's not so. It was not so clear to me before, because we just had with the Prato municipality a meeting presenting the final planimetry, and it was on Friday with for sure the prototype of Prato, and I was not able to participate actually. But in that case, I think they found a really good interest by urban planning assessore. I don't know how to translate it.
Counselor or see.
Yeah, okay. And I guess he's gonna insert it in a application they're gonna prepare. I need also to say that Prato municipality at the moment has a sort of really open mind with respect to this kind of activity, as they maybe they won also the UIA, Urban Innovative Action Plan, so that it's like a moment of I guess a bit over average attention to this kind of things. But still, yeah, I agree. This was what happened with not the counselor of the urban planning, but with the technicians.
Yes.
So like the administrative, bureaucratic people of the municipality.
They are the fortress in the regime.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that very well. I think it's really hard to also to deal with this kind of issues in a situation like this, when your big capital is the trust you have built with people and the capacity of and the possibility of mobilize people. And if you lose this tool, you lose this leverage, of course your action it's weakened. And this is
And if
can only be like this. You are missing the direct contact to your support group. So this is I think this I'm dealing with several projects at the moment, and this is a big issue for many, because how do you can't simply transfer what you were able to do on a face-to-face basis in an online situation. This is absolutely a completely different level of interaction, of dynamics, of also the way you can deposit knowledge. It's completely different. So
I think the scaling deep is really suffering of it, as you like you miss the symbolic aspects.
Yes. It's, because I think I am convinced that the key element of these processes is the learning process that it's involved in it, that works both on yourself, that are the promoters of the initiatives. It involves your target groups, but it's also relevant, as you were saying, for the administrations, also the technical part of the administration. And it's really hard for learning processes to be meaningful and to be rooted in the experience of people, if this experience is so mediated. This is the most difficult part, I think, and how to overcome this. It's a big task. It's also something that really. So I think it's an innovation field that needs to be further developed, because we really miss the tools there. Yeah.
When there will be the disruptive one.
Yes. Yes.
So sorry if I jump in. I just remember since Fabio participated in a couple of sessions ago, in a discussion of him with Julia, that he talked about, well, first of all, the imaginaries of people, and now reminding me really of this learning process and the imaginary that could be in the city. And also the other effect that you stated just coming to the end of the discussion that I was curious to bring it in here, that was the experience of participating. So basically you were saying we can find a way to reach out to people and design a park in the end. But what could be an additional goal to have this transformation is to let them really experience the value of doing something together as citizens, as a city, maybe even as a whole. So I was curious how I see personally that it connects really with the scaling deep factor. But I was curious to know, well, how is it going with that, and how do you think how you're experiencing it, and how do you think could be things that might help you scale deep in this sense?
Rita, or direct to me?
I think it's for you this
For
one,
me.
Fabio.
It's for everyone. But
Okay, I'm thinking how to translate what I said last workshop in this grid. No, so I'm not so used to all these terms. So sometimes I feel a bit lost. Maybe I haven't understand very well what you asked to me.
so how you last time talked about trying to transmit this experience to people as
Yep.
a learning experience, as I interpreted it now, to do stuff together, to design your city together, in this case a park. So I was curious how you are basically going on with that, or whether you found or you thought as a whole team about that aspect, if it's still really important for you in your
Yeah.
project.
I hope it was another question. Okay, this is a very critical point. You know, Luca has a history of failures in participative processes, and we have to interpret all this in a political arena that it's changing from left to right quite easily. Luca, it's a white town in red Tuscany, but it's a bit black, how we said. So we have an alternance between center left and center right. So now, in this point, we are in the center of the second administration of center left. So we have we have a completely agreement with and collaboration with the municipality at this point, but we have to will the future, because what will happen at the end of this? So it's not easy. This is the first point. In the last term, there was problems in participation. So it's not easy to convince people about how is useful to participate in process, co-project, co-manage, co-plan, all the things together. Okay, doing things together. It's not easy. It's the context of Lucca. It's quite different. I'm working in Lucca and in Pisa on another project. There, it's very easy. I have a group of 10 people, 15 people working since 2 years, 3 times a week, meeting every 3 times a week for 2 hours. No problem. In Lucca, it's a miracle, this.
The miracle.
But it was working. Problem is about methods, about weight. So there are not conscious. So it's not shared methods on work, but it's working. And Luca, it's around 8 years I'm trying to do something like this. It's quite difficult. There are a nucleus of people, but it's always the same. Okay, always in all the meeting, the project about co-planning or participate planning, or if we can change the word of making things together, always are the same people. It's around my age, 50, 55. There are few young people, and always the same. And so it's the problem. It's how to engage, in order to create a network that will be a strong base for the future. I know that I'm not answering completely to your question, just I'm describing the context, because
Yeah, of course.
how to do this, it's what we are trying to do.
But you raise an interesting issue. So your hypothesis, it's why it's easier in Pisa than in Lucca, if the social composition or if the profile of the citizen, the target.
Okay. I'm not. I said Pisa, but Pisa is big. I should say Calci. Calci and Vico Pisano. So are, but mainly Calci, and it's a strange place, Calci, that everybody is involved in 5, 6 projects doing things, and,
Oh, wow.
so it's something that have to be studied really, but maybe it should be
Next project.
this should be a project where the participative processes can grow easily.
Fertile and infertile.
Fertile places, because maybe I have no idea. I'm an anthropologist, so it's difficult for me say things without having thought long. I've studied but if I just have to put in the ground something, just like hypothesis for future, it look at big town. It's made to put together very big town. Not like Prato. Prato is biggest, but it's big because there are a lot of different interests, and there is not historical connection between interests. So historically, we are a town of a city of commerce. So commerce is competitive. It's not collaborative. Maybe if he was working in Vorno, that's a small places, look, or in some place in Garfagnana, where the agricultural culture is strongest, maybe could be, but okay, maybe I will go too far with this hypothesis. But okay, this is a question. Now, where the participative, I use this old term, but I come from all the cooperation, development cooperation in South America, so this was the word, can grow. No, this is my question, our question, and like Native and Luca, the Native point of view.
May I add that we are also facing different, we are perceiving different approach to engagement and the effect of engagement in between Prato and Lucca, even if we are, well, more or less the same. It was just, sorry.
And
but this is normal. It's normal because we are speaking about patchy Anthropocene. There are no solution. The Monte Pisano is the example. You can move around 300 meters and find all completely different ecosystem. We come from the nearly desert to nearly pluvial forest. And just you change 300 meters walking. So
it is like this. It's really,
there is not something uniform, equal, the same. Every case is a different case. Yes. So that's interesting to compare Prato and Lucca. We can learn really a lot from this experience.
Yes.
So at root level, if I can, at root level, to use your framework, I think we need more knowledge to reach and involve people on online projects. It's very difficult to reach and involve people in Lucca generally, but in particular, I think we need more knowledge because we had put the problem, so we have to resolve. Or I think the solution, one solution is to achieve more knowledge, to engage the participants.
It's true. It's a particular difficult historical moment.
Okay, we are niche with our tools. We are in a niche, and the people out of here, sorry for my English, the people that we want to achieve or to involve can be not prepared to use online tools. So we have to give them some knowledge that we have to prepare for.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I was thinking about what Fabio was telling us about the difference between one small city and the other. That maybe also the tools has to change from one city to the other. So sometimes if you just propose a thematic.
Sorry, I was on call. On a urgent call.
If you propose a discussion about a thematic of a park, can work for Pisa but not for the other place. Maybe the other place you have to start from the kids to get to the adults, let's say, not to somebody. Sometimes it's not, you don't need this this approach from the youngers to the olders, but it's enough just to invite the older ones. So it's all about adapting the contest also to get the participation, probably, no? Probably.
So Fabio start offline his project. Now we start online. It's a different perspective. We can involve only the people who have high level of culture, or middle or high level of culture.
Yeah, it's really an issue because it's you feel it that it also creates this kind of indirect selection on the kind of people you can reach. So you get inputs only from a certain target of people, which is not the aim of this kind of processes. So it's really complicated to open up and
it's very sensitive at the basis.
Yes. So I don't know if you have questions, or if there are other things that you would like to discuss with us.
They ask about the presentation, Ilaria.
Yes, of course, we can share it. Yes.
Maybe
we can send it to Alicia and Alberto, and they can share it with the
When there will be the next appointment?
Next week, there's one about
scaling again. No?
Sorry? Yes.
The one on the 14th.
On the
next week,
on
so I think 9th. Yeah.
Oh, 9th. Yeah, that's one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That is on replication. So
developing a blueprint to scale.
Okay.
And we already have. Oh, sorry, Alicia. We already. I was just saying that we already have supposedly 4 initiatives participating. So I don't remember correctly if you guys already replied to the email, but otherwise that means we are in 5, and the plan would be to have a nice, discussion as we had today about challenges, struggles, and also possible strategies to apply. So I think it can turn out a quite an interesting workshop and discussion over there.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I also take the chance to say that we are already thinking about what offering next year. So now we were, of of course, we're always trying to distill, you know, from these conversations as well, relevant topics as the online engagement that we are discussing quite a bit today. So whenever you have as well, how to say, ideas on things that you feel like pressuring challenges for you, through the coffee break, through just an email, through whatever you feel like most comfortable, just let us know and give us a heads up, because we are eager to frame things the most appropriate way and useful for you.
So like the start part factor, maybe we would like, it would be great to have a chat with you as researchers. I guess you can help us identifying indexes, which can be of help for us.
Yeah.
Is it something that it could be like part of these discussions?
So. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I remember, because we had, I remember talking to you and Anacleto during the other call about evaluating impact. So I was curious whether you guys found any ways in the meantime, or that could be still a relevant topic to discuss. I think it relates to this, right?
Yeah, definitely a relevant topic. And also, like, I guess the factor would be great to both evaluate the impact and for the identification phase of the new areas to intervene with start.
Or fertile soils, as Fabio was saying.
Okay. Thanks.
Then hope to see you next week.
So we can confirm within Friday, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
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 Bye bye.
Ciao. Ciao Fabio.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao a tutti.
Ciao Alberto. Ciao ciao.
Ciao.